The Trump administration sending 40 Iranians on an ICE deportation flight home this past Sunday. The American Immigration Council says this is the third such flight since September. Now, the USS Lincoln Carrier Strike Group entering Central Command waters in the Indian Ocean, as President Trump maintains Iran wants to make a deal. Now, the commander-in-chief telling Axios in a brand new interview, quote, "We've got a big armada next to Iran, bigger than Venezuela. They want to make a deal. I know so. They called on numerous occasions. They want to talk." Now, the president reportedly coming close to ordering a strike on Iranian targets earlier this month over the killing of tens of thousands of protesters that have been out pushing back against the regime. Some advisors reportedly, though, cautioned him at any attempt at a regime change, saying that can be a risky proposition. I want to bring in Fox News senior strategic analyst and Institute for the Study of War Chairman General Jack Keane. General, the situation with Iran seems to be coming to a head. How do you assess things right now?
Yeah, well, certainly I agree with that assessment. We've been waiting some days now to get these additional assets into the region, mostly maritime assets, to carry a strike group and the assorted ships that come with it. They have air defense systems, certainly, that can help with any retaliation attack by Iran to protect our bases and also to protect Israel. And then they also have, obviously, aircraft, but we moved a lot of aircraft into the region to various air bases, as well as air defense assets. But they also have offensive cruise missiles that can be used as well. I think what this is really about is, one, is holding the regime accountable, as you indicated, for the thousands that have been killed, and also the tens of thousands that have been in prison. And the president said he would do just that. And I think it's also about trying to cut off the head of the snake here. In other words, the regime is the snake, and we're trying to get the leaders out of there so some kind of transition can take place. A military strike in of itself won't do that unless you put boots on the ground here, and no one's thinking about doing that. But it certainly helps to put them on the path to doing that. And listen, just the threat of this happening has to be weakening the resolve of the leaders around the Ayatollah. I mean, Iran, Cheryl, is at the worst situation it's ever been since they came into power in 1980. And they are weak politically, economically, and militarily, and really on the cusp of not being even able to recover any of this because of the economic situation in such poor shape militarily. You can imagine the pressure that the leaders feel, much as Maduro's, the leaders around Maduro were feeling. Is this worth sticking with this leader? If our fate is what it appears to be, you know, that our fate is a very dangerous situation in terms of the other leaders surviving.
Well,
so there's a lot of pressure on the regime.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming we're talking to some of those leaders, like we were speaking to the leaders in Venezuela prior to the operation that we conducted there.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir, but there was a defection in Davos by an Iranian official, and then what we're seeing now is that there seems to be some reporting out there that, to your point, I agree with you that, look, the Ayatollah is back in a bunker again, and the way to do this is to target the Iranian, the RGC, but then also to find those allies, if you will, those underneath the Ayatollah that are willing to work with the United States. And I agree with you about no boots on the ground. That seems to be, the concern from this side of the Atlantic. Do you think that that's possible?
Well, we don't know, but I just know that the pressure is significant, and certainly the threat of an attack, and people know when President Trump says he's going to do something, he does it. So I think, one, the attack itself, executed, could put them on a pathway to a change, and two, if it's something else can occur as a result of the pressure that's on them, that certainly would be a welcomed event anyway. We're trying to get rid of the head of the snake here and eventually try to work with a new government that would likely, what we're seeing in Venezuela, be a transition government, somebody you can actually talk to. I don't think you can talk to the Ayatollah and the hardliners around him. They are stuck in what they're trying to achieve. They're not changing anything. Recovering the ballistic missile program, they want to recover their nuclear program. They want to continue to arm their proxies. They want to go on as if nothing happened in the last 2 years, which is a complete absurdity for the Iranian people. And certainly they are really the victims here. We have to keep focused on what is best for the Iranian people.
Yeah. Well, and does that change come from them? I can't see with these tens of thousands of people murdered by the regime that they're just going to all of a sudden stop with trying to take back their country from that regime. General, there's so much news I want to get to with you. There's more trilateral talks between Russia, Ukraine, and American officials this week in Abu Dhabi. Kyiv and Moscow are saying that things have been constructive. A Kremlin spokesperson saying there's still serious work ahead, despite these positive talks. But it's territory disputes. That seems to be the biggest obstacle, sir. Ukrainian President Zelensky says the U.S. full security guarantee document is ready to be signed. Do you think that we are close, finally, to ending this war?
Well, here's what I do think. I mean, I do think the United States and President Zelensky and his team and the Europeans have come pretty close to agreements, and certainly the security guarantees are a manifestation of that. And for our audience to understand, the security guarantees is something that protects Ukraine from a future attack. It deters Russia from that attack by having forces on the land, air power, and also sea power out there to deter them. And agreeing what that composition is going to be and where it will be is a very good thing. And that has taken weeks to come to that agreement. So that's very positive. But here's the problem. Putin has never made a single concession. I'm talking about Putin. His emissaries talk concessions, but I'm talking about Putin himself. Not one time has he made a single concession. He's refused to cease fire temporarily, and he's refused to make any concession of consequence himself on territory. And he's also said he's not going to tolerate any kind of foreign troops on Ukrainian soil. So I think the security guarantees, when they're put in front of Putin, is likely an obstacle and impediment. I'm skeptical still whether we can achieve something, not because of the lack of hard work by the American delegation, which I applaud what they've done, and the Ukrainians and the Europeans. They have all rolled their sleeves up and got something done here. It's Mr. Putin who's the obstacle here, and I'm skeptical that he's going to make a deal.
Well, General, certainly there's so much happening around the world. We always really appreciate your perspective on all of this right now. It's a very difficult time for the nation. General Jack Keane, thank you, sir, for being here this morning.
Yeah, great talking to you, Cheryl.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.